Hi, I'm Phil from Turbo-Mini.com and welcome to part 1 of installing a water methanol injection kit on your classic Turbo Mini. So as usual, grab a brew, let's crack on. The kit comes with pretty much everything you need. So the first part's a tank, so it's a 1.15 gallon tank there. Then we've got a high pressure 200 psi pump that's compatible with alcohol, so we can run with methanol with that. There's a nozzle, which is an injector nozzle. That's going to sit in my intercooler pipe. I'll show you where that's going to go in a minute. There's tons of wiring, there's bolts and washers and screws and conduit and everything for your wires to go in, so there's more than enough to go. You could go forwards and backwards on a Mini twice with that. There's tons there, so that's pretty handy. There's a plug-in connector that goes to the level switch on your tank to give you a warning when the tank's running empty. There's all that. So this kit comes with a progressive controller, which is pretty good. It's got a map sensor built in, so it senses boost, and you can adjust these two dials. So if you use this one on the left, that's when the pump's going to turn on and start injecting your water methanol mixture. So you can set from 2 to 10 psi there. And the other dial on the right hand side is when the injection reaches 100% full duty cycle. So it'll kick in at whatever you set it to there, so I'll say 4 psi, and then if you adjust it to 20 psi, whatever your maximum boost is going to be, it'll progressively increase the flow between those 2 points. So it'll start injecting at 4 psi, and by the time it reaches 20 psi, it'll be injecting the full amount possible, obviously limited by the nozzle. So you can fine tune it. Some kits used to just be basically on and off switch, so you'd hit a target boost, it'd initiate the water methanol injection, it'll just all come in one hit. Whereas this one, you can obviously start it at a certain point and it'll reach full injection capacity, whatever you set that to. So it's a bit more user friendly. So that's all the parts that come in the kit, but I've actually made a couple of additions to the kit myself. So I've got a filter there which will actually go in line between the tank and the pump, and that just screws apart. That's just got a gauze filter in it. That's just basically to catch any debris so it doesn't damage the pump or clog your nozzle. Obviously it's not going to function if the nozzle's clogged, so that was about 30 quid, but obviously well worthwhile. And another additional thing, that's for my nozzle to screw into there, and that's going to sit in my intercooler pipe work. Just makes it nice and simple and neat. So my silicone hoses will just connect and that'll just be in line, and that'll pipe up, and that's your injector nozzle. So it makes a nice clean tidy install. The nozzle itself is actually adjustable to give different flow rates, so you can actually take it apart and then you can fit a different one of these in the end, and that'll actually adjust the flow capacity of the nozzle. So that's pretty handy. So again, you can tune it in there, so you can set off with the smaller one and obviously work up to the bigger one if required. I've actually gone with the AEM kit for this. I've used AEM stuff before. I've used their wideband probably for 10 years plus now, and it's been absolutely brilliant. And I like the idea of the progressive controller. A lot of kits, cheaper kits, it's just basically on and off switch. I don't really like that idea. I like the progressive controller idea. I mean, you can spend more than I spent on this kit and get all kinds of fangle dangle stuff, but I think this is going to do what I want. At the end of the day, it's only a Mini, it's not 1,000 plus horsepower Toyota Supra or something, so I think it's going to give me what I need, and for the cost I think it's a pretty decent kit. So for those of you not familiar with what water injection actually involves, it's basically, as the name suggests, you're injecting water into the engine. It's finely atomised, hence the high pressure pump and the fine nozzle, so it's actually like a mist, so imagine like a fog if you will. That's injected into the engine, so it's not in big droplets, it's really finely atomised, and it's injected into the engine before the throttle. So you basically, it's absorbed into the airstream. What it does is not only cools the air to make it denser, so you can increase horsepower, you can possibly run more time in, or a turbocharged engine potential to run more boost. But it also reduces the chances of detonation happening in the cylinders, so water is an excellent detonation suppressant, so it's perfect for a turbocharged vehicle if you wanted to push a bit more than you normally would. You can also add alcohol to the water mixture, so you can add methanol and other fuels. Methanol is pretty common to use, so you generally do a 50-50 mix of water and methanol. The methanol actually adds a fuel, so it's got the potential to release more power again, because you're actually increasing fuel octane. So not only are you cooling the intake charge, you're actually increasing fuel octane as well, so there's a chance to run more boost and more timing. It's a cheap way of doing this. You could obviously put higher octane race fuel in, but then you've constantly got to be running the race fuel, whereas this is simple. You just use some distilled water and mix some methanol in with it. Simple and easy. The tank's pretty big, so the only convenient place you can really mount it is in the boot. You can't mount it on the back seat because you'll never get to fill it up because you haven't got the height. So, and then I've got a tank and everything in the middle of my boot, which I'll show you in a minute. So I'm actually going to make some brackets that run from the parcel shelf down to the boot floor and mount it on. It's probably going to sit about there. It needs to be, obviously the tank needs to be higher than the pump as well. So it's going to be mounted up as high as I can get it there, while still being able to fill it. And then I'll give it a bit of height to run down to the pump, which I'm going to mount over there. So as I say, I'm going to make some brackets for that, and I'll show you them in the next video when I actually start installing it. So this is what's going on in my boot. As you can see, there's absolutely no storage space. It's just all taken over by swirl pots and pumps and tanks. So there's not a lot of space. So this is the water injection pump down here. So I'm going to make some kind of brackets or something and mount that into there, and then the line will run out of it from there and along here and then to the tank. So this is the tank. Like I say, I'm going to mount the tank up on a bracket, so the tank's probably going to sit about there somewhere, if that makes sense. It's going to sit about there, and then there's space underneath it. It'll be higher than the pump and it'll run along there and into the pump, and then the lines for the pump will run inside the car into the engine bay and to the nozzle. You can just run the water or the water methanol as an extra safeguard against detonation, or what you can do is take advantage of the water methanol mixture and actually tune for it. Like I said, running more, increased timing or increased boost is not something you necessarily need. You could run a safer tune and not use it, but it does give you that extra advantage if you're looking for a bit more, or again just an extra safety margin. If you're only running low boost, it's not something you really need. But if you're in a hot climate, or you can't fit an intercooler, or your intercooler is not particularly effective, or you're running extremely high boost and you're seeing high charge temps, using the water injection can drop charge temps considerably. And then, like I say, with the extra octane of the methanol, you've got a potential to increase power quite dramatically. So I'm going to be fitting this kit, and then later in the year, when the car finally gets on the road, when I get a lot of other modifications that I'll be doing some videos covering finished, and it gets out, we're actually going to do some dyno runs, and we'll run it without the water meth running, and then we'll run straight water, and then we'll run water meth, and we'll see what difference it makes. So it'll be pretty interesting. I mean, that could be a few months away, but stay tuned for that later in the year. So that's it for part one. In part two, I'm going to actually fit the kit, so I'll show you a step-by-step installation, how I mounted the tank, how I mounted the pump, running all the lines inside the car and everything. So stay tuned for that, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.